So yeah, great topic, economics of cybercrime. If we don't change the economics, if we don't think about this more in terms of ROI and supply and demand and overall economics, we won't make any real progress in improving cyber defense and disrupting cyber attacks. But you as an individual should be thinking about what's the story. When I do an incident response, uh, cleanup and investigation in my environment, can I figure out what's the story behind the attack? Overall, what transpired and what's the general behavior and patterns that I can start then looking for and even blocking potentially? Because the adversary, your adversary, it's easy for them to recompile a binary. It's easy for them to change various little attributes, change that costume on a character in the story, but the overall story is the same. A lot of malware is only used once anyways, and now that it's commoditized and you have all these ransomware as a service or these other basically cybercrime as a service offerings, they're trying to get bulk usage out of these attacks. They're trying to really get wide distribution, basically shrink wrapped retail offerings, just like a real legitimate market. And so if you can start disrupting these, that really changes the equation. It starts improving your ROI where they have to spend a lot more time building a new type of attack, changing their tactics, their techniques, right? Changing how they operate within your environment. And so that's where you need to focus. How can I really not just close this door, but really close this story? If they can no longer make an action movie, they have to switch to drama or comedy. That really changes everything. And so, from a more technical standpoint, are you just simply doing things like tracking who's the parent of that child process that's malicious? Are you looking at the command line arguments? Are you seeing which process made that network connection? Who wrote out that binary? Very simple things. I hope you go beyond this, but even if you start expanding from a simple single piece of information to at least having one relationship, which process made that connection or who wrote this malicious binary, then you start figuring out, okay, how can I disrupt that so it doesn't happen again? That's when you start changing the economics. That's when you start getting more ROI on your time in investigation, incident response, adaptation, and cleanup starts getting more multiplied, right? One fix has a huge impact now. One patch has a huge impact. So you got to start thinking about that, and then they have to start spending a lot more time on coming up with new attacks, being more creative, packaging up and testing new things, right? It's really, there's a whole market and there's a whole business process. And so if they have to essentially come up with a new product, they have to spend a lot more time on their own R&D and their own basically testing and quality assurance, that kind of thing. So how can you disrupt them? How can you change the economics? Well, these are some things you should be thinking about. Patterns of attack, changing the story, disrupting the story, and really thinking about, for every 1 hour I invest, can I save 10 hours of response time? So yeah, we need to change the economics of cybercrime.